The sympathetic nervous system connects our organs to the spinal nerves in our brain. When these nerves are stimulated, it prepares us for stress by increasing our heart rate, increasing blood flow to the muscles, and decreasing blood flow to the skin. It gets a lot more complicated, but I'll simplify it for you. When facing a stressful situation, like a wild tiger in a jungle, feeling trapped, or a near fatal accident, our bodies prepare us to either fight or flee. This fight or flee response is mostly created by the sympathetic nervous system, which is a structured array of nerves, neurons, hormones, designed to help us with stressful situations. However, there's a catch. If these nerves and hormones are thrown off balance by, let's say, alcohol, drugs, caffeine, cigarettes, unhealthy addictions, unhealthy food, negative thinking patterns, it can cause havoc on our mental and physical states. The sympathetic nervous system operates through an array of interconnected neurons. When the sympathetic nervous system is constantly activated, norepinephrine, noradrenaline, and adrenaline are released, which causes a feeling of worry, panic, increased heart rate, impending doom, jittery muscles, weak legs, shortness of breath, sweaty hands and feet, numbness, tingling. Literally, the list of symptoms is quite a large one. Anxiety is automatic, but we can change the patterns. The sympathetic nervous system is part of the autonomic nervous system, or involuntary nervous system. This is another reason that anxiety is difficult to control. Most of it is created by traumatic thoughts and experiences that are masked as normal and get stored in our subconscious minds. Then when our brain comes across that experience again, it triggers anxiety. That's what the phrase anxiety trigger means. The autonomic nervous system is in charge of regulating our heart rate, blood pressure, body temperature, digestion, sweat, pupil dilation, and other important organ and cellular functions. This all happens without our conscious effort. Our neurons control the physical reactions in our body by signaling actions to the skeletal muscles, cardiac muscles, and gland secretion. When a dangerous situation arises, the sympathetic nervous system directs the body's involuntary response to it, and a wave of hormones increases the body's alertness and heart rate, sending extra blood to the muscles that need it most, like the arms, the legs. Our breathing becomes faster, sending more oxygen to the brain. Glucose is rushed into the bloodstream for an extra supercharge of energy. This is also what causes the shortness of breath one can experience when very anxious. Sometimes, when we have low levels of carbon dioxide in our blood, we can experience shortness of breath or air hunger. Also, it is because of rapid breathing. So try this if you're experiencing shortness of breath. Next time you're anxious, do this 5 times. Take a slow, deep breath from your nose, inflating your stomach, and hold for 4 seconds. Purse your lips like you're about to blow a whistle. Slowly release all the air for a count of 8 seconds until there's no air left in your lungs. Repeat this 4 or more times, then breathe normal. This should significantly reduce some of the anxiety symptoms you're having. It should also help balance your oxygen to carbon dioxide ratio inside of your body. You can also try taking slow, shallow breaths for a couple of minutes, then taking 1 deep breath. This forces the body to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Anxiety hits us so fast that we don't realize what caused it. The reason for this is that part of it is in our subconscious triggers that initiate the anxiety. Part of it is in the environment that we're in that activates the initiation. And part of it is our negative thinking that keeps us in that anxious loop. That's why we need tools to help combat these vicious cycles of anxiety. The sympathetic nervous system does not know the difference between a tiger chasing you or your crazy fight with your mother-in-law. It just registers these experiences as a 1 or a 0. 1 being stressful and 0 being relaxing. Also, the sympathetic nervous system cannot de-stress you once you're stressed. This is where the parasympathetic nervous system comes in, which we'll discuss in the next section. Basically, the parasympathetic system helps to calm our nerves and body down. It's also called the rest and digest system of our body. When both the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system work in harmony, the body is in balance or at equilibrium. So now I'm going to discuss the anatomy of the sympathetic nervous system. Certain structures in our brain and spinal cord, as well as peripheral nervous system, support the criteria for the sympathetic nervous system to function. There are receptors in our organs of the chest, abdomen, and other various parts of our body that collect information from our body and send that information to our brain through the spinal cord and cranial nerves. The hypothalamus is a structure in our brain which regulates homeostasis. It picks up signals from the body and fine-tunes activities of the autonomic nervous system in response. Foods like omega-3, fish, walnuts, flax seeds, dark leafy vegetables, vitamin C, as well as things like exercise, can keep the hypothalamus healthy. Certain surgeries, traumatic brain injuries, radiation, unhealthy diets, nutrition problems, eating disorders, and extreme weight loss can cause the hypothalamus to dysfunction or create an off-balanced hypothalamus. The amygdala is another brain structure that's usually called the emotional brain, which we'll discuss later in detail. It gets information from the hypothalamus in times of stress. The amygdala can cause intense emotions like aggression or fear. The signals that hypothalamus picks up from the sympathetic nervous system are then relayed to the adrenal glands, which produce epinephrine, that's better known as adrenaline. The adrenaline, when released, causes sweating, rapid heart rate, shortness of breath, and a lot of stress. As we continue to experience stress or triggers, or if we are worried about panicking in the moment, the signal loops back to the hypothalamus, which sends another message to the adrenal glands to keep producing cortisol and keep the stress response going. The remaining signals from the sympathetic nervous system exit the spinal cord in the thoracolumbar region or mid-lower spine. Sympathetic neurons tag nerve cells with the help of chemical messengers, acetylcholine. These neurons start to activate involuntary muscle movements, cardiac muscles, and glands throughout the body. Hence, the other anxiety symptoms that occur throughout our body when we're anxious. When this happens, the parasympathetic nervous system is also in communication with the same organs to try to keep everything in balance. When the sympathetic and parasympathetic system are not in sync or not in homeostasis, disease can occur or worsen. If there's already a disease that exists in the body, like cardiovascular disease, chronic heart failure, or hypertension, it can make the sympathetic nervous system overactive. Boosts of the sympathetic signaling raises blood pressure that causes hypertension. The improper functioning of the sympathetic nervous system can also be caused by kidney disease, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, Parkinson's disease, and even obesity. Parkinson's disease damages the sympathetic neurons that help maintain levels of epinephrine and neuroepinephrine in the body. These chemicals tell the heart when to pump harder, like when we exercise or stand up from a sitting position. When these neurons are damaged, it can prevent blood flow in patients with Parkinson's, which leads to the feeling of lightheadedness upon standing up increasing the risk of falling down. As for anxiety, when the sympathetic nervous system fails to work properly, mental health conditions like anxiety, depression, chronic stress are exacerbated. In small surges, the body's physical stress responses can be useful for that turbocharged push and the mental focus, like in a race or for an exam or talking on stage. But if continuous surges are happening, the stress signals become continuously produced in our body and it can wreak havoc. Extra epinephrine and cortisol damages blood vessels, increases blood pressure, promotes a buildup of fat, and damages other parts of the body. We don't want to always be in the fight or flight state, sending these chemicals surging through our spinal cord all the time. Perhaps we should focus more on the activities that activate our parasympathetic system, like meditation, exercise, eating anti-anxiety foods and eating very nutritious foods, yoga, and being mindful. Yoga can help strengthen our spine and help us calm down. They say you are as young as your spine is strong in yoga. I believe yoga can help prevent adrenaline and cortisol to be continuously produced. And in the next section, we'll discuss the parasympathetic nervous system and how you can activate that to feel calm and balance yourself out.